As far as the amusement industry goes, Japan has built up quite the reputation for having some of the world's quirkiest theme parks. A mix of attractions that appeals to the local market that Westerners like myself might not be familiar with. I experienced this firsthand during my first ever trip to Japan in 2019, and after returning in 2024 to visit some of the parks I missed out the first time, I once again came across rides, roller coasters, walkthroughs, and other various attractions that I was not used to seeing. And out of all those parks, Kijima Kogen easily stood out as one of the most unique. Generally speaking, the further away we got from Tokyo, the more bizarre the offerings, and Kijima Kogen probably takes second place for me of weirdest park in the country, only behind Greenland. And I do not mean that as a dig at all. If anything, it gives the park more personality. Whereas with some theme parks, you walk in with a plan to ride just a couple big attractions, I found myself wanting to experience all their major offerings. And having not done a ton of research before going in, I was pleasantly surprised by everything we did that day. Though Kijima Kogen is far from a perfect park, it was certainly an enjoyable stop that made traveling all the way to the bottom of the country to visit worth it. And if it wouldn't have been for their massive wooden roller coaster Jupiter, I don't know if we would have originally made that trek. Kijima Kogen got their start back in 1967. They're currently home to 5 roller coasters, and it doesn't seem like that'll be changing anytime soon. Their last roller coaster was around 2005, so 20 years and counting without a new coaster, which I think straight away does make me question this park's performance. Can they only afford to keep the park open and are unable to invest in new additions? Because at the moment, it certainly seems that way. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to look around and see that some of these attractions are pretty bare bones. Clearly, the budget is limited, and that means you have to pick and choose where you put your energy. And I will at least credit them where credit is due. It certainly inspired a level of creativity that maybe we wouldn't have seen otherwise. Some of the smallest rides I have ever seen in my entire life are at this park, and I call that making good use of what you got. But to give a little context, Kijima Kogen is nestled all the way up in the mountains. You have to travel along this long, windy road to get to the base of this park, which sits near a large volcano. It's part of a resort that also includes an on-site hotel and nearby golf course. I have no idea how popular it is, but it didn't look very busy when we were there. We elected to stay in the nearby town of Beppu, which is a tourist spot really known for their hot springs. It was about a 30-minute bus ride from the main station to the park. They drop you off by the front entrance, which is essentially the top of a hill. So the deeper into the park you go, you're actually sloping downwards the whole time. Admission to this park is only 1,500 yen or about $10 US, but that does not include access for any of the rides. A ride wristband will run you 3,300 yen or about $21 US, meaning for full access to the park, plan on about $30. Pretty affordable and fair, I think, for what you get. You'll be given a wristband and you'll scan that at the entrance to each attraction. And if you were one of those people that just chose to enter without doing any of the rides, if at any point you want to pay to do an attraction, you'll find kiosks scattered about where you can get whatever you need. I think it's also important to mention there are large lockers up by the front entrance where you can store your items if you need. All the traveling I've done in Japan is by public transit, so if you find yourself in between hotels and you have your bags and items with you, sometimes it means you have to store them at a park, and these Japan parks are very good with having luggage storage. Straight away through the front entrance on their little main street here, that's where you'll find some of their more interesting attractions, where they didn't have space for any rides, but they had to get creative. This includes a play area with a ball pit and obstacle course, a laser maze that's actually pretty hard, this funny little VR attraction where you sit in some seats while fans blow air on you and you watch like a crappy little dinosaur show. That one made me laugh. And there's also a year-round haunted house up front. Definitely kind of cheap looking, but still a nice little addition. It's also worth noting that attractions like the haunted house, a walkthrough that I'm going to talk about later, the go-karts, have restrictions with your wristband. You either can only do it once, or it's not included at all and you have to pay an upcharge. At least for the haunted house, I was totally fine doing it once. I thought that was more than enough. Also on the main street, of course, is the big exit gift shop. Most of the merchandise that we saw were these wrapped cookie boxes, which is part of a tradition in Japanese culture. Typically, when you go on a trip, you bring your friends or family back some sort of gift, and oftentimes it's these wrapped cookie boxes. I was on the hunt for a cool shirt, and I found this one shirt of Jupiter where it was literally just a picture of the ride slapped on. That made me laugh. I definitely did not buy it. Merchandise over there is often very different than what you might find here in the US. But finally, the last thing we have up front is this large full-service restaurant, tons of food options. This is where we elected to get lunch, and it was fantastic. Japan in general has incredible food, and every theme park I've eaten at out there just does it so well. And the prices too, I found to be pretty reasonable. Now, as we progress deeper into the park, you'll find that many of the paths look worn and frankly, a little unloved. Many of them, though colorful, are cracked and in need of maintenance. What likely looked great at the time of its inception has started to show its age. At one point, we found ourselves in a section of the park that looked like it used to be an old games area. Doors closed, tons of maintenance vehicles, all still accessible to guests. It felt wrong and like we weren't supposed to be there. On the other hand, the landscaping at least felt manicured. Can't complain about that, but in many ways, Kijima Kogen definitely felt dated. It probably also didn't help that on the day we went, as you can see by this footage, it was a ghost town. So quiet it felt off, and we had a similar experience at other Japan theme parks such as Tobu Zoo and Sea Paradise. And it was a shame because it was fantastic weather, beautiful day to be out and about, and no one was there. I mean, granted, I will say that we were there on a weekday in September. Perhaps that had something to do with it, but when I visited Japan in 2019, it was the heart of summer, and the theme parks out there were still dead. I think it's normal for these places to get a little busy around major holidays, but it's just wild to me that a park like this would be open every single day when seemingly very few people go. But let's talk about some roller coasters. What do they got? First up is that green Meisho looper. It opened back in 1983. It's called Super LS Coaster. One vertical loop, two corkscrews. Definitely has some janky moments to it, but when it's going in a straight line, it's smooth. I think it's the curves where you get jostled side to side. Not the most comfortable train either, so I would definitely prefer a classic aero looper over this. There's also a Vekoma roller skater, simply named Roller Skater. Definitely seen better days. They have a small little dragon wagon, an indoor-outdoor coaster named Gold Rush. Unfortunately, that was closed during our visit. A shame too, because that actually looked kind of decent, and that was their newest roller coaster they added. Again, 2005. Crazy. We spent most of our time at Kijima Kogen over by their massive wind coaster Jupiter. It was the first wind coaster to open in the country and to this day is still one of the longest in the world. Over 5,000 feet of track. There's already a full separate review of this coaster up on the channel. Go check it out if you want to hear about that ride because it's a pretty interesting experience. I'm glad I finally got to do it. And this zone over by Jupiter has quite a few interesting rides. First up, a shoot the chutes with a cover over the boat. The first time I'd ever seen something like that. So of course, I just had to do it. And let me just say, it gets pretty musky in that ride vehicle. There is no airflow at all whatsoever. But it is kind of neat seeing the water shoot up all around you and you get off completely dry. Unfortunately for us, on the day we went, it was actually like pretty great weather to do a water ride. So it was certainly one of those moments where I was like, oh, dang, I'm kind of bummed that it has a cover. It makes me wonder if in the summertime they'll actually take the cover off. I know at a place like Dunrail, they have a similar setup, except they actually alternate with one boat that has a cover, one that is open air, and there are two different lines. So you can choose your adventure. This was just one single boat in operation. I'm here for the novelty, but it certainly made me stand back and go, what exactly is the point here? Right next door is a massive Ferris wheel. Here in Japan, they love their huge Ferris wheels. This one gives stunning views and has a very unique outside-facing seat with over-the-shoulder restraints. So you can get your classic Ferris wheel experience or something a bit more unconventional. I know this is not the only Japan park that offers this, but it's only here in Japan where I've ever seen a setup like this. After a ride on the Ferris wheel, if you find yourself getting a little hot, you want to cool off, feel free to step into their Icebox, another Japanese classic, something that you almost never find outside of the country. It pretty much solely exists to cool down overheating guests. It is absolutely frigid in there, and they have some neat little like ice sculptures, some stuff that you can look at, but trust me, you will not want to be in there for long. It is jarring going from dramatic heat to ice cold, and it does help cool you down, I'll give it that. As you're exiting this plaza, you'll notice a little stream on the left-hand side. At first, I thought it was just there for ambiance until I noticed people dipping their feet in. Remember how I mentioned that Beppu is known for their hot springs? To keep with the trend, Kijima Kogen has a foot bath. The only time I've ever seen this in a theme park. It's completely free. You just walk right up and you can try out various pools because they each have a different temperature. The ones towards the top were like wicked hot, but the others pretty refreshing. And after your feet have been in socks all day walking around a theme park, it felt kind of nice. I thought it was really cool. And lastly, over on the far right side of the park when you walk in, that's where we get our last two quirky attractions. I mentioned there was a funhouse here. This was really clever. Some great gags and like problem-solving rooms. It's themed around these small little characters. I wasn't sure if they were park specific or they came from a show, but it was totally entertaining navigating this space. Really the park's only attempt at a story-driven attraction. and I definitely ended up preferring that over the dark ride next door. Yes, Kijima Kogen does have a dark ride, but this one, pretty different. You board this vehicle where you sit back to back in a circle, and it spins you throughout the experience, and you have guns that are shooting targets. It's all themed to pirates, and the entire ride experience lasts less than a minute. Just a small little oval. I was like, how did they build a ride this small? And then I found out that this was actually built as a concept for IAAPA back in 2000. And Kijima Kogen just bought it straight off of the show floor and plopped it down at their park. Now it makes sense why it's so short. It really was an interesting concept, though to this day, I've never seen another ride like this. So after arriving at Kijima Kogen around park open, leaving midday, we were able to experience all the rides we wanted to do without any lines. I was glad to finally check off this property, though I don't know that it's a place that I'll be dying to go back to. Especially with how infrequent they add new attractions, Kijima Kogen really feels locked in time. If you had visited this park 10 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago, it likely looked the exact same. And that makes me sad. And I know that Kijima Kogen isn't the only park that has that issue. Unless you're Disney or Universal or like Fuji-Q or Nagashima Spa Land, new attractions are few and far between. And parks like Kijima Kogen really have potential. Their experiences put a smile on my face, and overall I walked away with positive memories. But at least for someone like me who lives on the other side of the world, I think it would have to take something major to get me back. But let me know down in the comments below if you've experienced Kijima Kogen, if you agree with the points that I brought up, if you think there's anything I missed. And if you're new to the channel, please go check out the Park Reviews playlist. I've reviewed properties from all over the world. It's organized completely in alphabetical order. Go see if your favorite is on there. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time.